The Torah tells us in the book of Bamidbar, Parashat Matot, chapter 30, the law of the vows and the oath. וידבר משה אל ראשי המטות לבני ישראל לאמור, just several lines, said that here is the statement Moses made. זה הדבר אשר ציווה השם, that's the commandment. Here is the law of the, if a person take a ish kidor neder, take a vow, an oath, etc. And it's all the details about a woman in different states, if she is married, if she's single, the father, the husband, etc. But here is the language that Torah used. For example, book of Numbers, chapter 30, verse 8, Veshama isha biyom shom'o, and her husband heard, and on the day of his hearing, he was silent about her. V'kamu kol nedarya, then her vow shall stand. So you hear the statement of hearing, and you hear the statement of silent, meaning being, in a way, acquiesced to that. But then, sentence 9, Ve'im b'yom shmo'a isha, and if on the day that the husband hearing, ve'hefer, and he shall restrain her. Then they said, Ve'im beit isha nadara, but if she vow in her husband's home, and her husband heard about it. So the point is, you hear again the idea of day of hearing. Ve'im afer yafer otam isha b'yom shomo, sentence 13. But if her husband shall revoke them on the day of his hearing. So what you see here, the sense of hearing repeats itself several times. We know that the Torah is very prudent with words. And you see the two concepts of hakama and hafara, either acceptance, agreeable, or being acquiesced, which means by displaying equanimity, by being quiet, it means it's acceptance, or revocation, meaning he opposed it and he restrained it, or he said that he disagreed. But it's all happened not only that day, but in a sense of hearing. What do you do in a case that he is deaf, meaning he cannot hear? Trace a situation, you have a husband and wife, she commit herself to something. For example, a situation that I was aware in my previous congregation, the man was a Harvard graduate, MD, PhD. He have a heavily hearing issues. He have 3 practicing in 3 different locations in New Jersey. She was overwhelmingly generous, and people used to come from all over the world. And she used to give tremendous amount of money. And once I said to her, you know, you better check with your husband if he agreed to all those things that you commit yourself. So one of the issues when you have this type of oath, vows, etc., you have to have the husband to agree to what she's doing. Now, what do you do if he didn't hear it? So he can speak but not hear. So do you say that she must write it for him so he can sign up or agree or express it in his lips, in his mouth? How you what?
Or see her speak it.
Or see her speak it, or sign language.
I mean, because that's with a bracha, right? If you to hear a bracha, if a person is deaf, if they see the person's lips.
Correct. But you can go to the other phase of that is how exactly he does hafara. How exactly he expresses his annulment, his revocation of her vow. If you have those issues, you mean to say that you do not require that as a must, which is like b'diavad, it's okay, or you said since he's not hearing it, the Torah repeat it so many times that he had to hear it, therefore he cannot do much with that, and then what do you have to do? In a sense of her vow, her oath. So we are on Tractate Nedarim, page 73, 3 lines from the top of the page. באי רמי בר חמא, חירש מהו שיפר לאשתו. Meaning, you have here a deaf person. Can he revoke a vow of his wife? The Rosh tells us there is a pasuk in Tehillim, in the book of Psalm, Va'ani kecheresh lo eshma, Uch'ilem lo yiftach piv. I'm like a deaf, meaning that he cannot hear, but he can speak. So the Ran explained, you have the concept of bar da'at, meaning he have the comprehension capability. So he can say, I revoke her vow, but if you go to the next step, which is total cheresh, meaning he is in the level of neither speaking nor hearing, there is not a question. He cannot revoke any vow. Halachically speaking, we cannot revoke a biblical concept of vow only by hinting and not expression of words. You have to express it, the one said, clearly. Also, there is a concept of shoteh, someone who's not in the mindset of understanding. So just bermizah, just by hinting to something, that's not sufficient. So here the question is, even usually in the Torah law, the husband who hear his wife expression of vow, he can annul her. But if he is not bar shmi'ah, if he is not in that capability, can he do that? And soon you see, we try to make a juxtaposition to korban mincha. There is an offering called mincha, one of the offering, and it has to be blula bashemen, has to be part of the preparation of that offering, has to be combining with the oil. So the Gemara said, kol shera'ui lebila, which means any offering that you can combine the two, the oil and the solid, so you can do it. Otherwise, you cannot do it. Im timtza lomar, if you tell me, ba'al meifer belo shmi'ah, the husband can revoke her vow without hearing it, mishum dvar mishmau, because it's considering it's a fit to hear about them. Aval cheresh delav bar mishmau, yet a deaf person, he is basically not fitting to hear. So the Torah said veshama isha, the husband needs to hear. So that's me'akev, that therefore he cannot abrogate her vows. You cannot hear, you cannot mefer. Hainu de Rab Zera, the Amar Rabbi Zera, and here you see the juxtaposition Rab Zera brought. It's in regard to mincha offering. Mincha, the Torah said in Leviticus chapter 2 that you have to have a combination of solet, which is flour, oil, and frankincense. So you have to have this specification. The Torah goes to the at length that you have to have it in a combination of all together. So the Gemara explained in Tractate Menachot, page 18, that part of that is combination of the all of them. Over there, Rabbi Zera said that if you did not combine it, if it wasn't combined, if that b'di avad after the fact is accepted. So they said kol ha'ra'ui lebila, any mincha offering that is fit for mixing it, flour and oil, ein bila me'akeveto, which means mixing is not critical. The offering is still okay, still valid, even you did not mix it. Kol she'ein ra'ui lebila. But if you have a mincha offering that it's not fit for mixing, bila me'akevet bo. So you have here the mixing that is crucial for validation. If you do not mix, it's invalidated it. So therefore, here you juxtapose to our discussion, Veshama isha, the husband have to hear. It means that in order for him to revoke her vow, he must hear it. Or Dilma, or you may say the other way around. Veshama isha lo me'akev. That a husband heard a vow is not meant to be a critical together. It's just a description, general description by the Torah, which situation. What is the average situation? The husband and wife, she committed herself to something, he revoked her vow. So in that case, even in a case that the husband, God forbid, is dead, so, and he is basically unfit to hear, so he's able to revoke them. So how you reconcile? So Rava come in and he said, Tashma, come and hear another braita that explore on this question. Amar Rava Tashma, Veshama isha, the Torah said the husband heard the vow, prat le'eshet cheresh. This is exclusion to what? The wife of someone who's dead. Shma mina, you derive from that what? That a dead person cannot revoke his wife's vow. So here it's important to know that Rava meant to tell us that in general the deen of cheresh, the deen of the dead person. Why? Because veshama isha, the husband need to hear. It's called t'nai hame'akev. That's a condition that without that you cannot have revocation of vow. But it's not because the death cannot hear. It's just general statement that you have to have a sense of hearing when you revoke a vow. And it's a book called Birkat Shmuel that have a chakira. Is that because we juxtapose it to mincha offering, or is just the qualification for annulment of vow? What exactly is lav bar shmi'ahu? He is not capable to hear. Is that mean le'ikuva, that it cannot fulfill this requirement or not? Furthermore, as the indirect discussions among the rabbis is what exactly you meant to say in the sense of ikuv. Ikuv meaning something that delay fulfillment of requirement or mitzvah. For example, the mitzvah of ducking in mikveh tahara, ducking the body in sense of purification in a ritual bath. What do you do with a certain, how do you call it, fake teeth? How do you call those?
Dentures.
What is called?
Dentures.
Dentures. So the question is, if you tell me that the water can penetrate, or you can pull them out, or they are permanent, is that considered a some type of chatzitza le'ikuva or not? Is that considering something that it's a problem or not? The same you see nowadays, a famous question about tattoo and things like that. How do you treat it in the ducking in the mikveh? Or as we said, medaber ve'eno shomea, someone who can speak but cannot hear. So do you require, for example, a husband to put it in writing, for her to put it in writing, and then he can approve it by seeing it? Shagat Aryeh, it's a famous halachic book, one of the luminary rabbi in the past generation. Shagat Aryeh asked a question: how you treated ilem bari, someone who cannot speak, but healthy person, he just cannot speak. we have a mitzvah of Kriyat Shema, reciting the Shema every single day, and saying that Hashem is the only one, etc. Since you have a concept of Shomea Ke'one, someone read for us the Torah, and we hear the Torah, by hearing the Torah is considering like we are part of the reading of the Torah, someone who represents us and reads for us the Torah. So how you treated Kriyat Shema? Do you say that Rak Mishi Yachol La'anot, only a person who can express this in his mouth, or not? So the big question is, if there is something that you can do independently, so you cannot have an agent. For example, Veshama Isha. What we said Veshama Isha, that the husband needs to hear. Versus when it's come to Kriyat Shema, hearing the Shema, the Torah said what? Vedibarta bam. You shall speak them and teach them to, right? You should learn them and teach them to your children, etc. So is that lechatchila? Is that the way it should be? Or it's okay to have someone else, if the person cannot open his mouth, have someone else read it for that person? The answer is, in very short, for sure we're not going at length with that, it's okay to hear someone else, because the Shagat Ariyah said you cannot compare the law of a vows to the law of a expression, the Shema, in the case of someone who cannot speak Ilem. Iba היה להו, בעל מהו שיפר לשתי נשיו בבת אחת, especially in the biblical times, but you see it also in the in our days, in some segment of Judaism. So some people married more than one wife. So since we have a annulment of vow, that the husband can have the right to revoke the vow that his wife made, can he do that for both or not? Why? Because the Torah used the term Yani Ota. They said Ve'im biyomi shmoa isha, is book of Bamidbar, chapter 30, verse 9. If the day that the husband heard Yani Ota ve'eferet nidro. So, and the same in the father they said, right? Rabbi Avraham Minahar said that in the father said also Ve'im eni avia ota. So you see here Ota. Ota meaning, it doesn't say Otam. Said Ota is a singular. Singular means Davka, meaning only specifically one, which is only her, or Lav Davka. Or the fact that Torah used the term in singular, it means that the husband can annul only one time, or the Torah speaks about case of a woman that make a vow, and not in order to avoid the husband to do it in a combining of both. So the Ravina reconcile, Ravina Tashma, אין משקים לשתי סוטות כאחת מפני שליבה גס בחברתה. The Torah tells us in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 5, verse 23, if the husband suspected his wife to be unfaithful. So the Torah at that time have a formula of hashka'at sotah, which is the Kohen needs to write on a parchment the sacred name of God. He combined it with the water and he asks you to drink it. If nothing happened, it means that there's nothing there. If it's a reaction, it means that she wasn't faithful to him. So for sure we have to remember biblical time, we have to remember that he needs to be faithful as well. It's a lot of details. It doesn't work if both parties are not faithful, for example. And it's also, you have to remember that that's a formula we don't use, right, today. But the concept is the concept of, in a way, the God said, I don't, even the Torah prohibited erase the name of the Lord by any means. God said, the rabbis tells us that I am willing to allow to erase my name in order to bestow peace between husband and wife. Now the problem is, if the man married two wives and he suspected them, can you use this term of hashka'at sotah to drinking that water for both? So the Gemara said you can't do it for both. Why? Because for a heart is encouraged by the way that the other protested of innocence made by the others, which means that each of them get the strength from the others. So it may happen that one of them for real was not faithful, but the other may cause, because she gets some confidence by seeing the other exams, to cause the name of God to erase in vain, okay? Because it's only her and God that know the truth. So therefore you do not combine both together. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Lo min Hashem hu ze, it is not for the reason that we do not administer the water of two sotot, two suspected one simultaneously, Ela mishum shene'emar vehishka, because the Torah used the term, and he shall give, quote unquote, her to drink. So vehishka with the hay, which means vehishka ota, there are said, one singular ota levada, apply her alone. So it means when the Torah used the term ota in a singular, we learn it as a mi'ut, which here the husband cannot revoke the vow of two simultaneously. So we study it, if you remember, in the Tractate Sotah, page 8. But as the way Rabbi Yehuda said it, it's in any circumstance. The Ran add, and he said it applies to both. The same way that hafara, revocation, you can do it both. The same way kiyum, which means approval, you can have in both. So the Ran tells us that we basically follow the Rabbanan, follow the sages, that in the case of Sotah you can do it, but in the case of vow, you can do it in both. The Rambam disagree, and the Rambam said it has to be independent, Ota levad. But the Ran elaborates, and he said, it's not only that he cannot revoke individually, but two together. If you try to combine it, you have issues. So Moshe Feinstein explained that, and he said, husband in particular cannot revoke two together. However, he have a big discussion, how about Chacham? If you have a Torah scholar, a sage that specializes in this, and you bring the two together, can the Chacham do annulments together? And he tried to say that only husband cannot do to both, sage can do it. Furthermore, if you pay attention in the big shuls, in the big synagogues, you have a Talmud Nedarim, the manner of annulment of vow and Erev Rosh Hashanah. So in some shuls you see that you have like a large group of people, Bedin Gadol, right? That you do, many people together do a Talmud Nedarim. So again, that's the Moshe Feinstein Mahalach. Page 73b, Mishnah. In general, we have a concept of, we study it in Tractate Nedarim, of commitment. A man and woman betrothed, and they have an agreement that in a framework, for example, of a year, they're getting married. So if, for example, he find all kind of reasons why he cannot marry, he still have to follow the original commitment of supporting her if he pass due time. So even they're not under the chuppah as a husband and wife, but his commitment over her support taking an effect. Okay? Furthermore, we explain that that's applied to bogeret, meaning one that passed the age of 12 years and 6 months, and also to widows that passed the 30 days. Now, the big question is, since he is the one who's now supporting her, and is not necessarily full husband-wife relationships, does that mean that he have the right also to annul her vow or not? Right? So the Mishnah said bogeret, meaning bogeret is one that reached her grown stage, adulthood, maturity, 12 years and 6 months and onward, sheshahata 12 chodesh, or vesheshahata, which means that she engaged 30 days, or na'ara, that was already past the 12 months period, the Ran said, ve'almana, and the widow, 30 days, 30 yom, which is the Gemara in Ketubot 57 explained to us that if after the betrothed one party sue the others, for example, the groom after the bride or the bride after the groom, they want to make a final stage of marriage, the right of rejection applies to a certain period of time in order, for example, to do the preparation of the weddings. I know someone, no names, that prepared that 1.5 years in advance, the wedding. In Israel we can do it in a matter of days or weeks, but there are people who need time for that. So it happens sometimes that they need more time, they're not ready. Alright? So you need more time, but meanwhile you need to pay because you commit yourself to a framework of 12 months, right? So since that happened, and this person, for example, the man, is now in a state of husband-wife because he's paying, even they're not past the chuppah, right? Rabbi Eliezer tells us, so il uva'ala chayav bimzonoteha, since the husband now is obligated to provide for all of her expenses, her sustenance, yafer, so therefore he can nullify the vow by himself. It's same as a regular married couple that he is like already considering as a married man. So here is the beauty. Usually bogeret, you need, as we explained, the father and the soon-to-be husband, the fiancé. But since they passed the time meaning past the 12 months, now the quote-unquote husband, even not in the full terms, can do a manner of revocation. That's the view of Rabbi Eliezer. Good morning. V'chachamim omrim, but the sages said, En haba'al mefer ad shetikanes lirshuto. The sages said, no, as long as she's not under his jurisdiction, he cannot have the right to abrogate her vows. Until they don't get the chuppah, they cannot do it. So there is a machloket, there is a disputation between the two and the Bet Yosef. What do you do in between? For example, if the husband transfer her to, the father transfer to the husband or to his agent, but is in between the chuppah's time, which means at the that period in between, if it's a matter of vow, how you treated it in between. So the Gemara said, now the Gemara elaborates on this disputation, Amar Rabbi Eliezer u Mishnah Rishona, that's applied to Mishnah in Tractate Nedarim, page 57a. Amru davar echad, they basically said one thing, that when the time of, the original time of designation day for the marriage, and she did not get married because of her fiancé, since he is obligated to support, to give her sustenance, she in some manners considered a married woman, even she is not located yet, the one said, in her husband's domain. Ditnan, notnim livtula 12 chodesh lefarnes atzma. You give a one who is a single virgin 12 months when is a request for marriage, in order for her to prepare all the dowry, meaning the clothing, the jewelry, etc. Higia 12 chodesh, if the time which was agreed upon in the contract passed the 12 months, and he is avoiding for marry her, he is obligated to support in her sustenance from now on, like the regular married couple. Ochelet mishelo, she can take the fruit. For example, if he owns a estate, she can have the access to the income from his estate. Ve'ochelet bitruma, if the fiancé, or you call him husband, he is a Kohen, even she's a regular Israel, she have access to consecrated item, and she the same as a regular a wife of a Kohen. Aval hayavam, but if it's a Levirate marriage, meaning that they soon to be full-fledged husband is a Kohen, eino ma'achil bitruma. He not feed with a truma, as long as he's not act in a manner of yibum, of Levirate. Asta shisha chodashim bifnei aval, if she is in a waiting period of 6 months and the husband is no longer among the living, וששה חודשים בפני היבם, and 6 months under the domain of the Yavam, which is a half and a half potential for him to levirate her, ואפילו כולן, even you apply to the entire 12 months, בפני אב בעל חסר יום אחד, even a case that you have a 12 months, but 1 day is missing, which is the husband passed away 1 day before the completion of the 12 months. Or kulan, or they're waiting for the entire 12 months, bifnei hayavam chaser yom echad, before this, the in-laws, the brother-in-law, exuding 1 day, which is 1 day after she claimed the right, eina ochelet bitruma, she cannot partake of the truma. So the Gemarrah in Ketubot, page 58, explain that as long as she is reaching the 12 months period, because if it's 1 day less, it's already not completion of the entire, the Rabbeinu Tam elaborate, I don't have time, the idea of kinyan kaspo, how that apply. Anyway, זו משנה ראשונה בדין שלאחריהם אמרו, there is that follow בדין that said, אין האישה אוכלת בתרומה, שתיכנס לחופה. No, she cannot have an access תרומה as long as she is not enter the domain of the chuppah. So how do you compare the two views? אמר לאביי, we have to run, right? דילמה לא היא עד כאן לוקחה השמינן משנה ראשונה, אלא למיכל בתרומה, that is depend upon the marriage to eat תרומה. The Rabbanan, because it's the rabbinic concept, that even the prohibition of someone who's zar, who's not according to eat truma, is biblical, but the prohibition of the arusat kohen, the one engaged of betrothed kohen to eat from truma, is the rabbinic rules, and the sages of the first Mishnah hold that it's not because of the time, the haga'at zman, it's because you reach a point of access to certain, and this is one of those things that you have a framework of solely for the Kohen. Aval Nedarim Doraita versus a manner of vow, as we said, that is a biblical, and the Torah tells us that the engager, which means the arus, he cannot do independently. He needs the father to combine both in order to annul, revoke vow. Eimalo, you may say that the sages of the first Mishnah would not treat it as a married woman. And also the other way around. Ad kan lo shamat le Rabbi Eliezer. And also up to this point you didn't follow the view of Rabbi Eliezer. Ela gabei nedarim, only in regard to manner of vows, which is partially marriage. כדרב פינחס משמי דרבא דאמר, כל הנודרת על דעת בעלה הנודרת. He said that the woman what made a vow, it's the subject to will, to the consent of the husband, which is in general, she, knowing him and knowing the circumstance, she believes that he will go along with that commitment. אבל תרומה אפילו מדרבנן נמי, but as far as eating by the fiancé, by the engagee, eating the consecrated item, even that it's only rabbinic, right? May Rabbi Eliezer hold the same as the bedin של אחריהם, that if she is arusa, she is betrothed, and she eat from the husband who is a Kohen, she's not considering a married to him, lo achla, and therefore she still may not eat from the truma. So based on that, there are many halachic discussions. For example, there is a book called Beit Yitzchak. He asked a question, how about parents that convert to Judaism? So basically convert, we treat it kekadan shenulad, like someone who's just born. So the question is, can they have the access to annul vows of their child? Why? Because based on our sugya, the Beit Yitzchak said that we said when she make the vow, so she have to have al da'at avia, they have to have the consent, the will of the father. So for example, in our days, you see a bogeret, you see girls that pass the age of 12 years and 6 months, most of them, right? It's still in the father's domain. So it's in his domain, so therefore he may have the access to do annulment of vows. So there's a book called Talmud Nedarim who said, so specifically in a husband-wife relationship, you can say that she needs to have the will of the husband. Versus when it's the child you figure out that the father will let go. So the big question is, if you tell me husband-wife, you can say that the will of the husband, she needs to have the total consent. But as far as the children, do you treat it the same as husband-wife, that you have the consent of the father or not? So it's a big halachic discussion. I would like to follow up also with several practical halachot. The Rambam in Hilchot Nedarim, chapter 12, you see it also in your red eye in the code 234. A husband or father incapable of hearing cannot nullify his wife's or daughter's vow, because as we said, the Torah repeats, as we mentioned earlier, clearly in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 30, that the hearing is crucial for nullification. Also, a husband does not nullify the vow of the young woman betrothed to him on his own until she is fully married to him, even if he is obligated to provide for her. So basically that's the sage's view, and that's the Rambam's view, that even he committed to pay of her sustenance, of her expenses, but as far as the annulment, since they are not in full-fledged couple, the same apply if one betrothed a minor girl and waited a few years, and she is then demanded to be fully married while still a young woman. She is given 12 months from the day of her demand in order to prepare for her the final stage, after which she must be married. So if the time for the man to marry his wife arrived, but he did not marry her, he is obligated to provide for her unless the delay was due to circumstances beyond his control. We explained that when it's come to this type of halachot, we have to ask all the times because it can be varied.
Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim malachai